Shalom, everybody. I'm Eddie Chumney of Hebraic Heritage Ministries. And today we're doing a special Zoom meeting through the organization in Israel Facing Each Other, that is directed and headed by a good friend of mine, Ariel Cohen Alloro, who is, of course, in the room here with us today, and also who we have in the room is a good friend of mine in the United States, Michael Hohman. And Michael's got a ministry wherein he's been working with Jewish people and Jewish organizations in Israel since 2013. He's also working with the Jewish community locally where he lives, which is in the Jacksonville, Florida area. And Michael and I have an interest going forward and working with Ariel and facing each other to help Ariel to facilitate this vital and important task in the days in which we're living, and that is to bring together a reconciliation between Christianity and Judaism. And biblically, this reconciliation, one of the places where it is mentioned is in Ezekiel chapter 38, where the prophecy there is referring to two sticks coming together and becoming one. One is the house of Joseph or Ephraim, and the other is the house of Judah. So there's an interesting thing about that prophecy is that there's a prophecy about the prophecy. And so what I want to do in this meeting is I want to try to give a background of the Northern Kingdom and its characteristics. And then ultimately, what I want to do is I want to connect the Northern Kingdom and the prophecies about them to the New Testament, to Yeshua's ministry in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then furthering with the calling of Paul and his ministry in his letters. So that is what we are endeavoring to do here in this meeting. And so before I formally share some more, Michael, would you like to say a word or two?
Sure thing, Eddie. Thank you. It's really a privilege to be on here with Facing Each Other, and so this is something that's been near and dear to our heart at ENMI, and what we're doing with the Jewish communities in Israel, especially, but also in the church world, as we really attempt to come against the tsunami of anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, and why this is so important for Christians to understand the process of what this means, not just for themselves, but how this plays out in the meta narrative of Scripture throughout the Hebrew Bible. And so when we see that, it's kind of like the historicity or the story behind the story. And when you have that, it's very difficult to kind of separate different aspects of truth that we try to pick out and like so much when there's an incredible, just an incredible blossoming of one entire truth. That's why, I think God calls us, he calls us the part of that vine. And so, I'm excited to be a part of this and see how God is using this word, and Eddie, and through your teaching and understanding, and how this is going to go forth and help change paradigms, change mindsets, change the way we think a lot of times about how we relate to Israel, how we relate to the Jewish people at large, and why there's such an incredible and can be such an incredible relationship, as to and bring the rhetoric that is so against that down low. And a lot of times, we focus on things that are in very, very, small, when we don't realize that there are truths that are so much larger than that. And when our heart is geared towards love and reconciliation, because we've been called to that ministry of reconciliation, when we gear ourselves to that, what happens is we begin to facilitate that and see unity abound, echad unity, not achat, but echad one. And so I'm so excited that this is going to be something that will be, I think, something that's planted that will bear forth much fruit. And it's going to be something very, I think, profound for many that will not expect the results of what this will do.
Ariel, do you have some words to share?
Well, the connection between Jesus and the tree of Yosef is very clear. Et Yosef, the tree of Yosef, equal in Gematria Jesus, Yeshu. All right, so the connection is very clear. This was his real mission. He came here. He knew that the Judah will not listen to him from the beginning. He knew that they are not going to listen to him. So really, his real mission, he was to get to the lost people of the tree of Yosef, the 10 tribes lost, and to bring them back through Christianity that will come by him giving his life for it. Like he said, that he have other sheep in other place and he will give his life to save them. Okay, so connection between mentality of Christianity and mentality of Tree of Yosef as a little bit different mentality of religion. It's very clear. The Tree of Yosef, there was a worship. It was more close to the nature. It was not inside the wall with much less rule, etc. So, and it's important to bring this kind of mentality to the tree of Judah, and this really what did the Hasidut of Baal Shem Tov, Israel Baal Shem Tov. His teacher, his rabbi, was Achia Shiloni. For 10 years he learned. Achia Shiloni revealed himself to him in a physical form, and they learned all the Torah together for 10 years. And Achia Shiloni was the founder of the Tree of Yosef. Right? He's the one that really put. He was a spirit. He was a rabbi of Yerovam. Okay, 1 second. I will put my microphone a little bit more high. It's better now?
Oh, we can hear you great.
Okay. So, all right, so the connection between the Old Testament and the New Testament is very clear when we understand that really Christianity is continuation of the lost 10 tribes, what we call it the stick of Ephraim too. Okay, so the connection is very, very obvious, for me at least, not yet for the Jewish. And these sticks must to come together like it is written. All right? And this is what facing each other try to do. The gematria of facing each other in Hebrew, Fnei Mishel Achiv, it's a verse, is Yaakov plus Esav. Right? We can say that these two brothers must to come together, like it is written, all over the place. Admor Hazaken write in his teaching in Torah Or, when he talk about Parashat Vayishlach, the meeting between Yaakov and Esav, he said, this is a redemption. It's not our redemption. The redemption is a meeting between Yaakov and Esav, the peace between both of them. And what it means, this meeting, he called it the light of chaos in vessel of rectification. Light of chaos, it means a lot of light with small vessel, what is referred to Christianity. And these lights have to come into vessel of Torah, what refers to Judaism. All right, so right now it's like the vessel are in Judaism, vessel of Torah, and the light, the Mashiach, is really in Christianity. A big light, you can feel it. You can feel it. Every time you meet Christian people that are in light. And in Judaism, opposite. It's a lot of vessel, a lot of learning, a lot of the details, small details, infinite of details. And these two elements have to come together. And this is a redemption. Admor HaZaken wrote about this 200 years ago. Okay, so this is a mission, this is a redemption, and this is what it means facing each other in Gematria 558, that is Yaakov plus Esav. All right, this is a mission. When we do the will of God, the two angels on the Ark of Covenant, the two Kruvim, they used to face each other. This is what our Seder said. When we do the will of God, they're facing each other. It means when we don't do the will of God, Yaakov and Esav don't facing each other. This really is the conclusion of this very clear Gematria and what our Seder said and what Admor HaZaken says, Yechezkel, etc.
Okay, so in the common world in which we live, our world understands the terms Christianity and Judaism, but in the world that we live in, they really don't as much understand the terms the house of Joseph and the house of Judah. And in the prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 37 regarding the two sticks becoming one, there's actually a prophecy about the prophecy. And the prophecy about the prophecy is that the prophecy wouldn't be understood, and therefore the prophecy would have to be explained. So let me first cover that point, because part of what we are first attempting to do in this teaching, in this meeting, is to actually do that, is to explain the prophecy. So I'm going to begin reading in Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 15. For our Christian audience, we would read it, "The word of the Lord came unto me saying." But in Judaism, they don't say the sacred name of the Almighty, and so we might say instead, the word of the Almighty, or the word of Hashem came unto me saying. Moreover, son of man, take you one stick. Now the Hebrew there is eitz, which sometimes eitz can be rendered as a tree, because it doesn't make logical sense that you're going to take a hand and you're going to grab a tree. In our English, it's translated as stick, and write upon it for Judah, for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick, another eitz, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. And join them one to another into one stick, and they will become one in your hand. So the next verse, verse 18, is a prophecy about the prophetic event that the God of Israel told Ezekiel to do. So he's telling him to do a prophetic act, to take two sticks, join them, make them one. It's a prophetic act that will one day be manifested in our physical world. But then there's a prophecy about the prophecy. And in verse 18, it says, And when the children of your people shall speak unto you, saying, will you not show us what you mean by this? And that's literally where we're at now, because normative Christianity doesn't understand uh, what the Ezekiel prophecy here. In normative Judaism, doesn't really understand the prophecy as well. The irony about it is, and what we want to show, we may have to do this in several parts. We'll have to see how this session goes. But the irony about it is, Yeshua's mission was focused on coming to restore the northern kingdom back into covenant relationship. Because if we go back and start in the Torah, and then continue in the prophets, particularly in the book of Hosea in chapter 1, then going into chapter 2, there's a prophecy about the northern kingdom, that they would lose connection with the covenant, and their status would go from being his people, which means they're in the covenant, to being not my people, which means they're out of the covenant. But the prophecy in Hosea 1 says that once they were out of the covenant, they're going to come back into the covenant again. And then in Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8, it actually says that the northern kingdom was given a bill of divorce. They were cut off from the covenant. So what we're going to go through, and what we're going to explain ultimately in time, regardless of whether it takes another session or more, is that Yeshua's ministry, when it was in the Galilee, this is exactly where the northern kingdom was initially taken into captivity from, when they were taken into and taken captive by the Assyrians. They were initially taken from the Galilee area. So Yeshua is going to go back to the very place where the initial breach took place, or the captivity took place, and he's got to come and restore, and he's going to heal that breach. And so he initiated the work, but then going out into the nations to explain the work, that job was handed over to the Apostle Paul, or Rav Shaul. And so, even though this is in the New Testament, most Christians who read and study the New Testament do not see that it's in there. It's a foreign idea to them, even though, interestingly enough, they're reading about it. In the same way, in Judaism, as Ariel has studied, as Ariel has brought out, there's teachings about this in Judaism, and in the commentaries, and I've put together different teachings regarding what the rabbis say about the 10 tribes using the Jewish sources. So it's there, but it's not readily seen. So that's why the prophecy about the prophecy is, the prophecy needs to be explained. Now, this prophecy, the way I see it, is a two-step process. The first step of the process is join them one to another, and they'll become one in your hand. And then the second part of the prophecy is in verse 19, they will become one in my hand. So we have to do part one. And when we do part one, Hashem, the God of Israel, he will do part two. But the problem is we haven't understood our part. And then as we've tried to understand it, we haven't actually did what it says to do. And so what I'm about to say, Ariel, you know Hebrew, so you're going to know this way better than me. But I was told by somebody that knows Hebrew that in Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 17, where it says enjoin, the Hebrew word there effectively means bring them close together, but don't have them touch one another. And that's where we're at now in the reconciliation process. We need to draw near each other. We need to draw close. But we also have to recognize and realize that as we are today, there are still differences. And we can't try to solve all the differences, but we can do our part to come close to one another, to respect one another, and see where we can find common ground. And what we're advocating is we can find common ground in the ministry of Yeshua to play the role of Messiah ben Yosef, which Judaism understands to be the suffering Messiah. And in that role, as Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 18, Messiah was bringing, or Yeshua, in the role of Messiah ben Yosef, was bringing reconciliation to the world, but specifically, he was reconciling the northern kingdom and bringing them back into covenant relationship for the ultimate restoring the relationship with brother Judah, given that there was a separation when they both went into their various captivities. And so facing each other is about working to bring about this prophesied restoration. And so I'm going to share a thought or an idea from my perspective, and that is there was a day when I was studying the Jewish writings, the Jewish commentaries, etc., that I came across something that Judaism basically views Christianity as Esau. And that really surprised me because in all the years I've been in Christianity, 62 years of age now. And so I've been following Christian understanding and teaching since I was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I literally don't know one single person that calls themselves a Christian that sees themselves as Esau. But when I reflected upon the thought after initially being shocked, I came to the realization how that is how that is actually so. But you can only see it through the Torah to see how it's so. But I believe in Christianity there is Joseph and Esau elements within Christianity. And the Esau element wants to be hostile toward Judah, and the Joseph element wants to be friendly and make reconciliation with Judah. I'm talking about characteristics now, because in Christianity we have characteristic of those that don't want anything to do with Judah, or they think the land of Israel has nothing to do with the Christian faith, where others say, no, it's the opposite. No, Judah is our brother. No, the land of Israel is important in what the prophets had to say and what Yeshua had to say. So there's like this debate within Christianity, and I believe that Yeshua told a parable about this. And the parable is in Matthew chapter 13. And the reason why I'm sharing what I'm sharing now is I'm going off the comments that Ariel made earlier, trying to help what I perceive will be a Christian audience, as well as hopefully a Jewish audience that will watch this video of this meeting that we're having now, and that both can follow and understand what Ariel, said in his earlier comments. So Yeshua told a parable about the wheat and the tares. This is Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 through 30. And if you go back to the Torah, when Joseph had his dream and he saw stalks in the field, fundamentally, what he was seeing was wheat. And so in the Torah, Joseph is associated with wheat. And tare, it's a field grass. And there's a cognate word in Hebrew for Esau, and in Hebrew, Esau is Edom or Esav, and there's a cognate word to Esav. It's a Hebrew word for grass, and I believe I believe it's found in Psalm chapter 72. I'm not quite sure if I have the verse at the top of my head, but we'll have to check that out. In any event, Matthew chapter 13, when Yeshua's telling the parable about the wheat and the tares, the wheat that he's referring to, I believe, is Joseph. And the tare that he's referring to is Esau. And in the parable, he says originally they're going to grow together and they're going to be indistinguishable. The elements of Joseph and the elements of Esau within what's called Christianity are going to be indistinguishable. But he says, as we come to the harvest, as we come to the end of the age, and from a Jewish perspective, the harvest and the end of the age is the end of the exile. It's the redemption. That as we come to those days, as we come to the dawn of the redemption, Yeshua taught that there's going to be a separation between the wheat and the tares. And there's going to be a distinction that's made between the wheat and the tares. And I believe that in our times, we are seeing indeed that distinction, such that we can see within Christianity that there are those that are for Judah, for Israel, and then there's elements that aren't. And the reunification is going to take place with those who see Judah as their brother, who see the importance to the land of Israel, who understands the redemption. And interestingly enough, as we get to the harvest, Yeshua taught that the wheat is going to be bundled together. In other words, they're going to be united. And the tares are going to be bundled together. In other words, they're going to be united. And the wheat is going to go into the barn, and the tares are going to get burned up. And so this is something, this perspective that I just shared right now about the wheat and the tares is not a perspective that Christians have of themselves. However, this is my explanation, at least, of when Ariel mentioned Jacob and Esau, but he also mentioned that Yeshua is connected to Eitz Joseph, the tree of Joseph. So there actually is a connection on both levels, and so that's one of the things I wanted to make mention. But what I want to do now is I want to start to more formally get into the background, the teaching, and the connection, and it's a very extensive thing if you cover it thoroughly. It's so extensive, in the time that we have here. We're not going to be able to go through everything. We could only touch on it. But before I try to formally start and share some insights and understandings, I want to make a declaration to Ariel, and that is, Ariel, you are my brother, and you are my brother because you're my brother. And you're not my brother because you believe a certain way, don't believe a certain way. We agree on certain things, we don't agree on certain things. That's not the basis of you being my brother. You're my brother because you are my brother. And as my brother, I want to treat you as my brother. And I'm saying to the Christian world, they need to see that biblically, Judah is their brother. And we can see in the prophecies that the prophecies speak of a time of an adversarial relationship between Ephraim and Judah, or northern kingdom, southern kingdom, or you would say Christianity and Judaism. But there's a prophecy that there's going to come a day when there will no longer have that adversarial relationship. And the prophecy is in Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 13. This is a prophecy of the peace between northern kingdom, southern kingdom, Ephraim and Judah, Christianity, Judaism. It says, the envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah will be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. So this is a prophecy of the peace between the two, of which Ezekiel chapter 37 is prophesying about in the context of the two becoming one. So I believe that we can have reconciliation at the Joseph level, at the Messiah ben Joseph level. Messiah ben Joseph regarding Yeshua, we can see that his ministry was to the northern kingdom and bringing back the northern kingdom. And then on the individual level, if we recognize and see who we are, that we're a part of God's people, that we're a part of Israel. We're a part of these prophecies. These prophecies are spoken about both of us. We can have a connection there as well, because we're the unity of Joseph and his brothers after they were disconnected. Once Joseph was sold into a pit, he went to Egypt, and the brothers didn't recognize him. There was a separation from the family. So the separation from the family is like the exile that ended up happening between northern kingdom and southern kingdom when they got separated. But it was Joseph that got united with his brothers. The unification was at Joseph. And so um, that is where we need to focus on, and that is how we should and bring the two sticks together, and so that they can be brought together, but not touching. In other words, we don't have to resolve. We don't need to resolve who Messiah ben David is. When Messiah ben David comes, we'll recognize Messiah ben David, but that's still yet the work and the task of Messiah ben David is something that's future. Okay, so you can debate about something future, but Messiah ben Yosef, Yeshua lived here 2,000 years ago. So that's something that we can discuss historically and make a historical connection to, and come together. And the reconciliation, I believe, can be made at that level. So with that in mind, let's go back and let's begin to start the process of seeing how it was laid out even in the Torah. Then it continued in the prophets. What was the destiny that became the northern kingdom, and how does the New Testament, how does Yeshua ministry 2,000 years ago, how does that fit and connect that way? So let's start to do that. So we're going to begin by going to Genesis chapter 48. So first of all, one thing we need to realize as we're going to Genesis chapter 48 is that within the family of Jacob, there's particular offices. And these three main offices are king, priest, firstborn. So the kingship office was given to Judah. And after the sin of the golden calf, the priesthood office was given to the tribe of Levi, and then the family of Aaron are specifically the priests. The high priesthood comes from Aaron's family, but then the firstborn blessing was given unto Joseph, but then it was passed down to his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And so when we're reading and trying to understand the Bible, we need to understand. Sometimes we're reading about the element of the kingship. Sometimes we're reading things about the priesthood. Sometimes we're reading things about the firstborn and the issues regarding that. So in Genesis chapter 48 and verse 16, this is when Jacob is giving the blessing of the firstborn to Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And it says in Genesis chapter 48 and verse 16, and I'm reading out of the King James English. And so the King James reads, "And the angel which redeem me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them in the name of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac. And it reads in the English, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And then I have a notation in my Bible that says that's not really what it says in the Hebrew. The notation of my Bible says, the Hebrew says, let them increase as fish in the earth. And so, Hebrew in general, but biblical Hebrew in particular, it has all types of these things in the language that when you know the language, it is written to catch your attention. You either have small letters, big letters, you have, dots above letters, you have crowns on the letters, you have particular sayings. All these things are there in order to catch your attention, that pay attention to this. And so, of course, we know that fish don't multiply on ground. They live in water and they multiply in the water. So why does it say here that in the blessing that they're going to increase as fish? Well, one of the very first symbols of those that believed in Yeshua 2,000 years ago in the first century, one of the very first, what we call now Christianity symbols, it was symbolized by a fish. So why and how did they choose the symbolism of the fish? Well, I believe in part it's connected back to this prophecy that was made unto Joseph's two sons. And then continuing on the prophecy, how it normally should be is the blessing goes to the oldest, which would be Manasseh over Ephraim. But what happens is Jacob gives the blessing, the firstborn blessing, the double portion blessing to Ephraim. And so that should catch your attention as well. But I believe that the reason why Jacob knew how to do this was through the names. Ephraim basically means double fruitful, and Manasseh means to forget. So, like, who you got to give a double portion blessing to, but the one that means to be doubly fruitful? So, in the Hebrew, it makes sense why this was done this way. But then it says in Genesis 48, verse 19, when the attention was brought to Jacob about what he was doing. And verse 18, Joseph said to his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put your right hand upon his head. But his father refused, and he said, I know it, my son, I know it. He shall become a people, and he will be great, but truly his younger brother will be greater than he, and his seed shall be, and the English says, a multitude of nations, but the Hebrew says, melo hagoyim. He will fill up the nations. Or you could read this that basically he's going to be seen as a part of the nations. And in that context, not be regarded or not be seen as being Jewish. So he's going to be associated with fish, and he's going to be associated with the nations. So these two Torah terms, Yeshua, he picks up these terms because when he calls his disciples, among his disciples were fishermen. And when he calls them, I'm going to go to, I believe, I think it's chapter 4 of the book of Matthew. Okay. In Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 and 19, it says, and Yeshua, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he said unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So why does they were, first of all, they were fishermen, literally, but then why does he say, I'm going to make you fishers of men? He's given a deeper meaning here, because what he's going to do is he's going to train up his disciples, and ultimately he's going to send them out to the nations. And when he's speaking to them literally in his ministry, they're called the multitudes. He was speaking to the multitudes, and the multitudes is a little hint back to the prophecy in Genesis 48 that Ephraim would be a Melo Hagoyim. He's going to be the multitude. So it was a little hint that he's talking to the northern kingdom. But in destiny, They're virtually inseparable. The nations are going to be connected to the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom is going to be connected to the nations. So in task and function and mission, they're connected together. And so the reason why Yeshua says, "I'm going to make you fishers of men," this goes back. Yeshua was given a hint back to Ezekiel chapter 34. Uh, and in Ezekiel chapter 34, and the last two verses, verses 30 and 31, it says, "Thus shall they know them that I, the Lord their God, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, are my people, and you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, my flock, they are men." And the Hebrew word is Adam. So Israel is called Adam. Well, the whole mankind in general is called Adam. So Israel's called Adam, and Israel's called Adam. And Yeshua said, "Follow me, and I'll make you fishers of Adam." And so he's talking about the nations, as well as Israel, and it goes back to a prophecy in Jeremiah. Jeremiah in chapter 16. Jeremiah chapter 16, and we are going to begin reading. And this is about the end of the exile, the redemption. And I'm going to begin reading in Jeremiah 16, verse 14, but I actually want to point out what's said in verse 16. But for context, verse 14. "Therefore, behold, the days come, says the Almighty, that it will no more be said, the Almighty lives that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt, but the Almighty lives that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands where he has driven them, and I will bring them again into the land that I've given unto their fathers." So this is speaking about the ultimate end of the exile, the final redemption. But then he says, in the process of this happening, because redemption is a process. In verse 16, it says, "I will send for many fishers, says the Almighty, and they shall fish them." So this is a little hint that in the process of ending the exile, of the exiles returning, that the Almighty is going to send fishers. So Yeshua literally had fishermen, and they're going to fish for them. And so the way that they're going to fish for them is they're going to go out in the nations, to the non-Jewish world, and the message is going to be proclaimed to the non-Jewish world, that Yeshua died for your sins. Now, in other words, it's not necessarily said this way in normative Christianity, but recognize that he's Messiah ben Yosef. That's in essence the message to the nations, is the proclamation, the emphasis that 2,000 years ago, what Yeshua did was a role and task of a suffering Messiah, a Messiah ben Yosef. And that message that he's Messiah ben Yosef, or suffering Messiah, is going to be proclaimed in the nations by fishermen the message is fishing. They're going to fish for them. But Yeshua had to train them up. He had to teach them. So he says, now, if you follow me, I'm going to teach you the proper way, the proper method when I send you out in the nations, what the message needs to be in order for you to catch the fish. And so after Yeshua died and he was resurrected in John chapter 21, we have an account where he tells them to put forth their net. And so they put it down, and initially they put the net down on the left side. So if a Christian is reading the story and they read that he put the net down on the left side, they're not going to get anything out of it other than, okay, they just decided to put it on the left side. But in Hasidut, it's significant because the left side means the other side. In other words, it means not the proper side. It means doing it the wrong way. Okay, but then he said, okay, put it on the right side. This is John chapter 1, verse 6. Cast the net on the right side, and then you will find. So the right side is the good side. That's the light side. That's doing it right. That's doing it the proper way. And ultimately, they caught 153 fish. So that's a pretty weird number. So why is it that he's teaching them that when you go out in the nations, I'm sending you as fishermen to go fish, and who you're fishing for is the Northern Kingdom, and what you're going to catch is 153. Well, that's a weird number. What does that mean? So he's communicating to them at the mystical level, and this is called the sod level of the Torah. He's giving them the teaching at the sod level of the Torah, the interdimension level of the Torah. And so if you go back to Hosea, in Hosea chapter 1, Hosea chapter 1 begins to outline a judgment that will come upon the northern kingdom for departing from the Torah. And so in Hosea chapter 1, there's a marriage between Hosea and Gomer. And then there's three children that are mentioned in chapter 1 as a result of the marriage. And the names of the three children are prophetic of the destiny of the northern kingdom in their judgment. So the first child was named Jezreel. So Hosea chapter 1, verse 4, called the first child Jezreel. All right. So in the Torah anthology commentary to the book of Hosea, referring to the Targums, it says about this verse, Jezreel, that it means from the Hebrew that they're going to be scattered into the nations. So the prophecy is they're going to be scattered in the nations, and the next child is named Lo Ruhamah. So Lo Ruhamah in Hebrew means no mercy. So I'm going to scatter the nations. I'm not going to show you mercy. And then the third child's named Lo Ami, which in Hebrew means you're not my people. So what's being said here? When I'm going to scatter you in the nations, I'm not going to show you mercy. You're not my people. It means that they're being cut off from the covenant, because at Mount Sinai, they were his people, not being his people. But then ultimately, they're going to be brought back from the nations, from the status of not being his people. And they're once again going to be his people, because in the King James, it's Hosea chapter 1, verse 10. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it will come to pass in the place where it was said, you are not my people. Well, right here, it said that you're not my people in the prophecy, that it will be said, you are the sons of the living God. I'm hopefully I'm doing this right, Ariel. But if you take the gematria of B'nai Ha-Elohim, and I'm doing this by memory, that it's 153 B'nai Ha-Elohim, not the word living, but just sons of God. 153. Well, they caught 153 fish. So Yeshua was giving a sod level teaching to his disciples, that if you go out on the left side, you're not going to catch them. If you give them the wrong message, you're not going to catch them. But if you cast it on the right side, if you give them the right message, you will catch them. And what you're going to catch is 153. You're going to catch the northern kingdom in the nations, and they're sojourning with the nations in general. So you're going to catch both. You're going to catch the northern kingdom, but you're also going to catch those who they're living with, which is the nations. And you're going to and you're going to get the fulfillment of this prophecy. So ultimately, when you do that in step 1, that is the first step of the process. But then step 2 of the process is, then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head. Well, that's what Ezekiel chapter 37 is talking about, is the reunification of northern kingdom, southern kingdom. So this prophecy right here in Hosea, Paul, when he's writing the book of Romans, you can tell that when he's writing the book of Romans, that he's addressing the northern kingdom in his letter to Romans, because it becomes apparent by what he says. So he's speaking, he's writing to the Romans, the people that are living in Rome, and in Romans chapter 9 and verse 24, it says, Paul wrote, even us whom he has called, not of the Jews only. So the Jews here is the house of Judah. And specifically, he's referring to the Pharisees, who today we don't use that term today. We refer to Orthodox Judaism or refer to Judaism for short. So even us whom he has called, not of the Jews. Now notice Paul says that the Jews are called, that the Jews are a part of the people of God, that the Jews are a part of God's family, that the Jews are our brothers, okay? But then he says, but also of the Gentiles. Well, if you read that word casually, the word Gentile, you're going to think the nation, somebody that's not a part of the nation of Israel. But now let's see the context of his use of that word Gentiles, because the language that he's writing in, it gets translated, and I'm getting the translation into English. So in the translation, it's losing the understanding of the meaning of the word in part. But it says, as he says in but also the Gentiles, as he says in Hosea. Okay, let's slow that down. Paul said the Gentiles. That's the subject. The Gentiles, as he said in Hosea. Wait a second. The book of Hosea wasn't written to the Gentiles. You can't say the Gentiles as he says in Hosea. The book of Hosea was written to the northern kingdom. So the context of his use of the word Gentiles in this verse, when he's referring to the book of Hosea, is he's talking about the northern kingdom. And he says, I will call them my people, which were not my people. He's referring to that prophecy. And her beloved, which were not my beloved, which this prophecy is restated in chapter 2 of Hosea. So in the King James, it's Hosea chapter 2, verse 23. And he says, it will come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, there it will be said, you are the children of the living God. He's referring to Hosea chapter 1, verse 10. He's telling the people that he's writing to in Rome about the prophecy, and he's explaining to them the prophecy and how it relates to Yeshua and what he did. And then he continues on and he says in Romans chapter 10, verse 19, he says, but I say, did not Israel know? For first Moses said, Moses is referring to the Torah. So he says, first, this is written in the Torah. I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. So he's talking about the northern kingdom, who they are, what the prophecies are, what their destiny is. And he's saying that there was a prophecy about the northern kingdom in the Torah in Deuteronomy chapter 32, which is called the Song of Moses. And he's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 21. They've moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They've provoked me to anger with their vanities. I'm going to move them to jealousy with those that are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with the foolish nation. So who is a people that from the time that the children of Israel were in the wilderness, who's a people that later became not a people, and who the scriptures called to be foolish? It was the northern kingdom. Why are they called foolish for? Because they departed from the Torah. If you depart from the Torah, you're foolish. And then he backs it up in Romans chapter 10, verse 20, and he says, but Isaiah is very bold, and said, I was found of them that sought me not, I may manifest unto them that asked not for me. There, he's making a reference to Isaiah chapter 65, verse 1. So what he's saying is Deuteronomy 32, verse 21, in Isaiah 65, verse 1, they're parallel, they go together. So Isaiah 65, verse 1, I am sought of them that ask not for me. I found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me, unto a nation not called by my name. So who was a nation that was called not a people, that was said, oh, you're not my people anymore. You're not called by my name anymore. Well, that was the northern kingdom. So Paul was now showing the prophecies. He's explaining it to those in Rome that he's writing to about the prophecies of the northern kingdom. He's trying to explain to them that these prophecies are about you. And uh, then then um, um, I'm going to now go to what Peter had to say about this subject. And so we're going to go to 1 Peter and chapter 1. So 1 Peter chapter 1, we're going to go to verse 1. 1 Peter 1:1, it says, Peter, a shaliach, an apostle, a sent one of Yeshua HaMashiach. And it says, to the strangers scattered. That word scattered is the Greek word diaspora. That's the word that's used for the exile. But this is not referring to the Jewish people that are scattered. It's referring to the strangers that are scattered. So why is he using the word strangers for? Because he's talking about the northern kingdom. Because when they were in the covenant, they were not a people. When they got cut off from the covenant, they and being cut off, they're in essence got the status of the nations, of a ger, of a stranger. So they're scattered. And now he's telling you where the northern kingdom are located. They're located in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia. Well, they're located in Galatia. Didn't Paul write a letter to the Galatians? Yeah. So who's he writing to in Galatians? He's writing to the northern kingdom. That's where they're at. Now look what he says about these strangers that are scattered, the northern kingdom. He says that they're elect according to the foreknowledge of God. That's because Jacob is elect. And Jacob got split into northern kingdom and southern kingdom. So the northern kingdom is elect, being a part of Jacob. The southern kingdom is elect, being a part of Jacob. And it says that you are elect. And so then he goes on and he tells in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 25. It says, you were as sheep going astray. Okay, you went astray. How'd you go astray? You departed from the Torah. And so you got scattered into the nations. You were a sheep going astray. But now you've returned to the shepherd and bishop of your soul. It says, and that's referring to Yeshua, and it's referring to Yeshua as the good shepherd went out to get the scattered sheep of the northern kingdom and to bring them back into covenant. Paul's not only explaining it to the people he's writing to in Rome, but now Peter is explaining it to the people that he's writing to in these locations in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia, which in those days was called Asia Minor. This is the area around the Black Sea. Today it encompasses part of Turkey, and ultimately you're going to go into Europe. Okay, but then Peter's telling about the prophecy of Hosea. So 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9, it says, you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. Well, he's referring back to the Torah, where Israel's called a peculiar people, where they're called a holy nation. He says back in the Torah, you were called a holy people, a peculiar people. And it says in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 10, in time past, you were not a people, but you are now the people of God. You had not obtained mercy, but now you have obtained mercy. He's referring to the prophecy of Hosea, that in time past you were not a people because you departed from the Torah and you were given the judgment of Lo Ami, but now you become a people of God. Well, how have you become a people of God? Is because it's being explained to them that when Yeshua died on the tree as Messiah ben Yosef, that he did so to bring the northern kingdom back into the covenant relationship, the covenant relationship with him. And so this is an act of mercy that was being shown unto them. And so now if we go to the northern kingdom, whenever they were taken into captivity, they were taken into captivity into three stages. And so the first stage is in 2 Kings in chapter 15 and verse 29. Okay, so it says, in the days of Pekah, king of Israel, he came and he took various places. And among the places that are listed there is Gilead and Galilee, which is a part of the land of Naphtali, and he carried them away captive to Assyria. And then after this taking, um, Isaiah comes along, and says that there's going to be another taking besides the first one from the Galilee area, but this second taking is going to be more severe than the first taking. And this is Isaiah chapter 9 and verses 1 and 2. It says, "Nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali." That is in the initial taking. But now afterward, or the next time, it's going to be worse. He did more grievously afflict her by way of the sea beyond Jordan and Galilee, the nations, that the people that walked in darkness, is talking about the northern kingdom. How did they walk in darkness? Darkness means you've departed from the Torah. So because they walked in darkness, because they departed from the Torah, they are going to see a great light. And the great light here is a reference to Yeshua coming and ministering in the Galilee area as Messiah ben Yosef. And they that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, that's exile in the nations, upon them has the light shined. So that being the case, in Matthew's account, and in Matthew in chapter 4, verse 13, it says, "And leaving Nazareth, Yeshua came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the seacoast, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying," and now he's got to quote Isaiah chapter 9, verses 1 and 2. "The land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali by way of sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles," or Galilee of the nations. "The people which sat in darkness have seen a great light, and to them which sat in the region of the shadow of death, light is sprung up." So Yeshua is focusing his ministry. He did go to Jerusalem, but he spent his time and his focus in the Galilee because the northern kingdom was initially taken into captivity from the Galilee. So in order to do a tikkun, in order to do a repair, he's going to go back to the place where the taking originally occurred, and that's where he's going to begin the process to do the mending, to do the repairing. So now he's going to begin to, at the deeper level, at the sod level, he's going to begin to teach them. So in Matthew chapter 5, verse 1, it says, "And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain." Well, that's literal. So there were very many people around. So we call a lot of people a multitude of people. But on the deeper level, the multitudes is a reference to Genesis chapter 48 and the prophecy that Ephraim will be a Melo HaGoyim, a multitude of nations. And so the multitudes is a little Torah code word for the northern kingdom. And so what we're seeing here at the deeper level of meaning here is that Yeshua is specifically addressing, and he's specifically teaching the multitudes, which effectively means he's teaching the northern kingdom, or Ephraim, that's been scattered into the nations. And so if you see it that way, he gave instruction to the northern kingdom about interaction and relationship with Judah. And what he said to them was, this is Matthew chapter 7. Notice he's speaking to the multitudes, which he's at the deeper level of the Torah, he's speaking to the northern kingdom in exile. He's not speaking to the southern kingdom. So he's saying to the northern kingdom, Matthew chapter 7, verse 3, "And why do you behold the mote that is in your brother's eye, but you do not consider the beam that's in your own eye? Or how will you say to your brother, let me pull out the mote in your own eye, but you have a beam in your own eye. Hypocrite, first cast out the beam in your own eye, and then you will see clearly how to cast out the mote in your brother's eye. So what Yeshua said right here, effectively to the northern kingdom, effectively to the nations, effectively to Christianity, they did not listen to what he said. So I'm going to translate what he said. He said, do not go to the Jewish people and do not go to them and say, oh, you're doing things wrong. Oh, don't you believe that Yeshua is the Messiah? You should be believing that Yeshua is the Messiah. He said, don't even think about doing that until you first get the beam out of your own eye. Then maybe you could consider talking to Judah, but don't do it until you get the beam out of your own eye. Well, what's the beam in your own eye? You're not following the Torah. So what he's saying is, do not even have conversation with Judah until you decide to follow the Torah. And only when you decide to follow the Torah, then maybe you can have conversation with Judah. Because if you go to tell them that their belief system is wrong and you're not following the Torah, that's not what you're supposed to do. So what has happened over the years? Well, Christianity goes to Judah and say, your belief system is wrong, and it's made the situation worse. And instead of making the situation better, because they didn't do what he told them to do. So now in Matthew chapter 9, we're going to begin reading in verses 35 and 36. And Yeshua went about all the cities and the villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, healing every sick and every disease among the people. And when he saw the multitudes, it's a hint again to the northern kingdom, which is synonymous with the nations. He was moved with compassion on them, the northern kingdom, the nations, because his ministry is centered and focused on bringing the northern kingdom back into covenant relationship. He was moved with compassion because they fainted. And look what it says about the multitude. They were scattered abroad. It's a little hint to being exiled into the nations. And they are as sheep having no shepherd. In other words, they're scattered, and in being scattered, what they did, if you look at when the Assyrians came and took the northern kingdom into captivity, the Assyrians brought their people and caused an intermarriage with the people of the northern kingdom. And in the process of time of the intermarrying, those of the northern kingdom, in generations to follow, they lost their understanding that they were of the northern kingdom. They started to call themselves by the nations. And so as they're been assimilated in the nations, they didn't have good shepherds over them. Now, what's the definition of a good shepherd? A good shepherd is someone that tells them that they need to return to the Torah. And what Yeshua was referring to is he's referring back to Ezekiel chapter 34, that they were as sheep having no shepherd. And so in Ezekiel 34 verses 1 and 2, it says, the word of the Almighty came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel and say to them, woe be to the shepherds that they feed themselves, but should not the shepherds feed the flock? You eat the fat, you clothe you with the wool, you kill them that are fed, but you feed not the flock. All right. So in Christianity, a leader over a congregation is called a pastor. And the word pastor means a shepherd. So literally the congregational leader in Christian churches is called a shepherd. And what are these shepherds teaching the people? They're telling them, oh, if you believe in Yeshua, you're not supposed to follow the Torah. But yet the pastor is getting a salary, yet there's donations being given to the church to fund the church. In other words, it's exactly what it says here. You eat the fat, you clothe the wool, but you feed not the flock. What does it mean, feed the flock? Feeding always means of teaching them Torah. So it says, you're getting benefit from the sheep. However, you're not teaching them the Torah, and it's only when you teach them that they need to follow the Torah is the only way that they can be brought back. It's the only way that Judah is going to see that I'm Messiah ben Yosef, and it's the only way to have reconciliation talks with Judah. As long as the shepherds are out here and they teach a doctrine that you're not supposed to follow the Torah, which they do, that doctrine is called the doctrine of dispensationalism. And that doctrine teaches, it's a doctrine of Esau. That doctrine teaches that Yeshua died on the tree, and in dying on the tree, that you don't need to follow the Torah as a consequence. So, characteristically, Esau was a man of the field. And a field, Yeshua defined the field in the parable of Matthew chapter 13. He said the field is the world. Because when he told the parable about the wheat and the tares in Matthew chapter 13 and verse 39, he said, the harvest is the end of the age. And in verse 38, that's Matthew 13:38, he said, the field is the world. So Esau is a man of the field. So Esau's worldly. And so in being worldly, he was the opposite of Jacob. Jacob was a man of tents. What does it mean he was a man of tents, or he lived in tents? It means he studied Torah. He was interested in Torah. He wanted to study Torah. And he spent the time to study Torah. But Esau wasn't interested. He's out in the field. He's not interested in studying Torah in the tents. So that characteristic of Esau, that that he speaks against the Torah. He doesn't want to listen to the Torah. He doesn't want to follow the Torah. That doctrine ended up coming into Christianity. How did it come into Christianity? Because when we read the New Testament, when we read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, when we read the book of Acts, when we read the letters of Paul, there is no Roman Catholic Church. There is no Pope that was mentioned in the New Testament. Furthermore, there's no Protestants that are mentioned in the New Testament. Protestants only came into being. They've only been around, and there's only been a people called themselves Protestants for 500 years. So Protestants aren't in the Bible, and Catholics aren't in the New Testament. And so who is the New Testament speaking about? Well, initially it's about Messiah to bring back the Northern Kingdom. And we are told, after we had the original followers of Yeshua, Yeshua sent he sent them out into the nations after the Northern Kingdom and the nations. But in going after the nations, he's also going after, and who's going to hear the message are the non-Jews that's living with the Northern Kingdom and the nations. So it's effectively going to go to the Northern Kingdom and the nations. But initially, Rome persecuted the Christians. They put them in the lion's den. They killed them for expressing faith in Yeshua. But later, 300 years later, they changed the way their approach. And Constantine in 321 declared Christianity to be the state religion of Rome. And so they had to have a state church with the state religion. And that state church was called Roman Catholicism. So Roman Catholicism, they wear red. Red is the color of Esau. And the Roman Catholic Church from 300 AD into the 1500s, and it didn't stop in the 1500s. But anyhow, they did a very bad job of persecuting Judah and killing Judah and burning their holy books, the Talmud, and this and that. And so then they started to teach a doctrine that if you believe in Yeshua, you don't follow the Torah. And that doctrine that they started teaching from 300 to 1500, that gets picked up in the Protestant churches, and it brings us down to today. So within Christianity, there is still a teaching that's been handed down all these years that got initiated by the Roman Catholic Church formally from the year 321 going forward, that if you believe in Yeshua, that you don't follow the Torah. And that doctrine and that teaching has hindered the reconciliation with Judah, because now people that call themselves Christians say, well, we don't follow the Torah. And besides that, the Roman Catholic Church introduced, oh, we celebrate Christmas. Oh, we celebrate Easter. And then they started saying, well, we need to, it's okay to eat pig. Okay. So now let's look at the Northern Kingdom and some of their characteristics. If we go to Hosea chapter 9, and I don't know how long I've been doing this, but I have a sense that I should, for the sake of time, there's a lot more to share and say, but for the sake of time, I should be maybe wrapping it up, because this is enough for someone to digest, at first. But in Hosea chapter 9, in verse 3, this is what it says about the northern kingdom. It says, Ephraim shall eat unclean in Assyria. That's a characteristic of the northern kingdom. They're going to eat pig. Okay. Judah doesn't eat pig. Okay. The prophecy about the northern kingdom is they would eat pig. Now, in Hosea and chapter 2 and verse 11, also about the northern kingdom, it says, I'm going to cause her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all of her solemn feasts. The prophecy about the northern kingdom is they would stop keeping Sabbath. They would stop celebrating the new moon. They would stop keeping the festivals. Well, Judah has all these years been keeping these things, but the northern kingdom, it was prophesied that they wouldn't. It was prophesied that that they would eat pig, and then it was prophesied that they wouldn't be interested in following the Torah. In Hosea chapter 8, verses 11 and 12, it says, because Ephraim has made altars to sin, altars shall be unto him to sin. I've written to him the great things of my Torah, but he counted it as a strange thing. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't follow it. So the prophecies about the northern kingdom is that they would be scattered in the nations. They would take on a status of not being his people. They would eat pig. They would stop keeping the Sabbath, the festivals, the dietary laws, and they would lose an understanding of who they were even as a people. So Yeshua is going to come back. He's going to bring them back in and die to bring them back into covenant relationship. And this is what he's telling the Pharisees, that this is what he's doing. So in John chapter 9, verse 40, Yeshua is having a conversation with the Pharisees, who today we would say Orthodox Jews or Judaism. So in John chapter 9, verse 40, the Pharisees ask Yeshua a question: are we blind? And in John chapter 10, Yeshua answers the question. And so we're not going to go through all the details of it, just as it pertains to what we're talking about now. But one of the things that Yeshua says is, I am the good shepherd, verse 11, and the good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. Okay, so Yeshua says he's giving his life for the sheep. Now, in speaking about the sheep to the Pharisees, he says in John chapter 10, verse 16, I have another sheepfold, not you. So notice how this is phrased. I have another sheepfold, not you. Yeshua is calling the Pharisees his brother. He didn't say, he says, this other sheepfold is my family. And he says, you also are my family, not of this fold. So he called the Pharisees a part of the fold, a part of the family of Israel. And then he tells the Pharisees, the other sheepfold, that would be the northern kingdom, them I must bring, and they will hear my voice. In other words, he's telling the Pharisees that when the northern kingdom comes back, they're going to believe that I am the Messiah. Okay. And then what he says is that is going to happen first before we get to the end of the exile and the final redemption, because he says then there'll be one fold and one shepherd. But then he says, in order for us to get to the final redemption, the end of the exile, I have to bring the northern kingdom back into a covenant relationship, back into the family. And so I have to lay down my life in order to bring the northern kingdom back into the family. He's going to die as the suffering Messiah, as Messiah ben Yosef. And so I haven't even begun to show all the examples in here in the New Testament, but One thing I do want to show you that Paul was doing, that Christians don't have a perspective that he was doing it, but in Acts chapter 26, Paul was teaching Ezekiel 37, the two sticks becoming one. So in Acts chapter 26 and verses 6 and 7, he says, "And now I stand, and I am being judged for the hope of the promise made of God unto our fathers, unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving day and night, hope to come." So he was preaching the hope of Israel, and then he went to Rome and shared it in Rome. In Acts chapter 28, verse 18, it says, "For the hope of Israel, I'm in this chain." What he was referring to, the hope of Israel, he was referring back to Ezekiel and chapter 37 and Ezekiel chapter 37, where it says in verse 11 that those bones, the dry bones, are the entire house of Israel. It then says in Ezekiel 37:11, "Our bones are dried, our hope is lost." So as long as northern kingdom is split from southern kingdom, our hope is lost. And so Paul was proclaiming the hope of Israel, the unification. And then he was actually sent into the nations, to the northern kingdom, into the nations by Yeshua himself, and he was sent, and he's explaining it in Rome. We can see that they were among other places. They were in Galatia, so now he's writing a letter to the Galatians, and then in Second Corinthians, here's what he says in First Corinthians. In First Corinthians chapter 10, Paul says, and beginning in verse 1, he says, "Moreover, brethren, I would not that you be ignorant." Now he's speaking to non-Jews, and he's telling these non-Jews, who's really the northern kingdom and the nations, along with the Gentiles themselves. "I would not have you be ignorant how that all of our fathers were under the cloud. They all passed through the sea. They were all immersed under Moses in the cloud and the sea." What he was doing there when he says, "Don't be ignorant that all of them were," he's teaching from Deuteronomy chapter 29, where it says in Deuteronomy chapter 29, verses 12 to 15, where it says that you should enter into covenant with the Almighty and into his oath, which the Almighty makes with you this day, that he may establish you today for a people unto himself, as he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. "Neither with you only do I make this covenant, the oath, but the covenant and the oath is being made with him that stands here with us this day before the Almighty, and also with him that is not here." So the covenant was made with those that were physically, literally there, and their descendants. Well, Paul was saying, don't be ignorant that all of us were there. In other words, even though you weren't literally there, you were there because you were part of the covenant. You were part of the people that were there. That's what he says in First Corinthians and chapter 10. Then he goes on to say to them in First Corinthians chapter 10 that all the things that were written in the Torah, all the things that were written, they were written for our instruction, for our learning. And First Corinthians 10:11. And then he says it's instruction for us, upon whom the ends of the ages are come. He's talking about the final redemption, that what's written in the Torah about the exodus from Egypt to the promised land is a blueprint. It's a foreshadowing of what the final redemption is going to look like. And so therefore, don't be ignorant that when Israel came out of Egypt, that this is instruction to you about the final redemption. And then in his second letter to the Corinthians, in Second Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 18, he tells them, it says, "Who has reconciled us to himself by Yeshua, and Yeshua has given to us the ministry of reconciliation." What's he saying to them? Yeshua gave us a ministry to be reconciled with your brother Judah. That's the two sticks becoming one. And that is what Ariel and his organization is about, facing each other. It's about the ministry of reconciliation. It's about bringing the two sticks together and making them one, because this is a necessary preparation for the ultimate final redemption to take place, which the final redemption, the Almighty will help in the final redemption because the two is going to become one in His hand. That's the second part. But we have to do our part, and hopefully I showed you more affirmation about a central topic of the New Testament, both Yeshua's ministry and what Paul said and what Peter said is a focus on the northern kingdom and bringing them back into the covenant relationship. But because of how the Roman Catholic Church has taken the New Testament and how they framed it and how they taught it, Christians today don't even understand that their own New Testament is about this matter. So that's the reason why the prophecy in Ezekiel 37 says that when the children of your people will say to you, like, what do you mean by this? So in the Christian world, even though I just read to you a lot out of the New Testament, and they can read their own New Testament and they don't know that that's the message, and that's what they're reading about. It's because of these teachings and these doctrines that sowed confusion. So Joseph and Judah, no. So Joseph and Esau, as Yeshua told, in the name of Christianity, they're going to grow together. And it will not be until the time of harvest, to the end of the age, that you're going to be able to distinguish the Esau element, which is the negative element, the side that doesn't want to follow the Torah, the side of Christianity that doesn't doesn't accept Judah as their brother, with the Joseph element that does want to follow the Torah, that does want to be reconciled with their brother. And at the end, you're going to see the distinction. And when the harvest time comes, that's when the reconciliation is going to take place. So we are living in the days of the dawn of the redemption. And this work that Ariel was doing is extremely and vitally important. It's a major element of the fulfillment of Ezekiel 37 and the reconciliation, because on the Christian side, we need a partner with Judah, and Ariel is that partner. We not only need a partner, but specifically to bring Yeshua back and be accepted as a part of the family of Judah. He needs to be legally redeemed, and the redemption has to come through a Cohen. And so Ariel is uniquely qualified, wherein he is strictly following Judaism and the teachings of Judaism and the teachings of Hasidus. That's the way that he's expressing his faith unto the God of Israel. So while being on the Judah side, he is a Cohen. He's a priest, so he's in the legal position to bring Yeshua back, so that he can be considered as a fellow Jew. And that's the first step of the process of the reconciliation, because ultimately, and this is another story, and we'll have to get into another time. But the other thing that Ariel is doing, in addition to redeeming Yeshua back to the Jewish people in the ceremony of the redemption of the firstborn, because now the reason why he has to do this is because now Yeshua is linked with the nations. And Yeshua told that he would be linked with the nations for 2,000 years. And he's teaching this at the deeper level of the Torah in John chapter 11, in the story of the resurrection of Lazarus. So the resurrection of Lazarus speaks about Ezekiel 37. It speaks about the dry bones coming to life. It speaks about the final redemption. So the resurrection of Lazarus is the resurrection of the end of the exile in Ezekiel chapter 37. So in here, John chapter 11, there's two figures, Mary and Martha. So Martha is going to represent Christianity, and Mary's going to represent Judaism. So it's Martha, it's Christianity that says Yeshua is speaking to Martha in John 11 verse 24, and says, and he says about Lazarus, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. And Yeshua said to her, I'm the resurrection and the life. He that believes on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Do you believe this? In other words, Martha represents Christianity. Does Christianity believe that? Well, yeah, Christianity does believe that. But then it says about Mary, it says, Mary, we are in John chapter 11. Now look at this prophetic picture here. Once Mary and once Martha says, oh, yeah, I believe that you're the Messiah that would come into the world, then the next thing that happens is John 11, verse 28. It says, when she had said that, she went her way, and she called Mary, her sister, saying, the master is come and calls for you. That's a prophecy that Yeshua is saying what Christianity would do. When Christianity would say, oh, yeah, I believe that Yeshua is the Messiah, that what they would do is they would go run to Mary. They would go run to Judaism and try to say, hey, don't you know that Yeshua is the Messiah? But notice it says that Martha went her way. She did that on her own. Okay, but what it says about Mary, it says, verse 31, the Jews then, which were with her in the house. So the Jews and Mary were in the house. And the house means Torah, studying the Torah. And that's what Jews do. They're focused on the Torah and studying the Torah. They're in the house. And then she goes to the grave to weep there. Mary went to the grave to weep there, not Martha, Mary. Well, it's the Jews. It's Judah that weeps over the exile. They're praying at the Wailing Wall. The Christians aren't weeping over the exile. It's the Jews. And then Yeshua identified with Mary, weeping for the scattering in the nations, because the shortest verse in the Bible, John 11 verse 35, Yeshua wept. So now what it goes on here, it tells about Caiaphas, and this has to do with what Ariel's doing. So Caiaphas is a priest, and it says in John 11 verse 49 to 51, it says, Caiaphas, being the high priest the same year, said, you know nothing at all, nor consider that it's expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. So there is a concept, what Caiaphas is referring to is there's a concept in Judaism where a Zadik can have the sins laid upon him and represent the nations. That's what Caiaphas is referring to. And so then it says that Caiaphas said in verse 52 that Yeshua would die for those that are scattered abroad. And then it goes on to say in verse 54, it says, Yeshua therefore walked no more openly among the Jews, but he went into a country near to the wilderness, into a city called Ephraim, and there he continued with his disciples. So, I mean, he literally did that, but he was prophesying that that Yeshua's focus would not be upon the Jews, but his focus would be upon Ephraim, upon the nations, about going to the northern kingdom in the nations to bring them back. And that was the commissioning he was going to give to the disciples. He continued there with his disciples. Now, but for how long? How long? Well, Lazarus was, it says he abode there for 2 days. John 11, verse 6. Yeshua abode 2 days. And then he said, after 2 days. Now, the 2 days is 2,000 years. It's a picture of 2,000 years, because what was said to the northern kingdom in Hosea in chapter 6, Hosea chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, it says, after 2 days he will revive us. And the third day he will raise us up, and we will live in his sight. So 2 days he will revive us. Reviving means returning you to the Torah. So the northern kingdom will be brought back to the Torah after 2 days, or after 2,000 years. And that's what's happening now. There's a remnant. There's a remnant of Christianity that's expressing a desire to return to the Torah. But then after 2 days, John 11, verse 6, Yeshua said to his disciples, let us go to Judea again. In other words, after 2,000 years, after Yeshua has spent 2,000 years with his disciples, focusing on the nations, focusing upon the northern kingdom, focused on bringing them back into the covenant, telling them that he's the suffering Messiah, then the focus is going to turn to Judea. In other words, for the two sticks to become one, for them to be reconciled. And that's what Ariel's doing. He's saying we need to bring Yeshua back to the Jewish people. And in order to do that, we have to do a redemption of the firstborn, to bring him back to Judea. Let him be seen by the Jewish people as a fellow Jew. Because right now, for the most part, they don't see him as a fellow Jew, but he has to be brought back. So Yeshua is telling about that this would happen, that after 2,000 years, let us go to Judea again. And Yeshua was saying that when that would happen, there would be challenges in doing that, because here's what the response was when he said, let's go to Judea. In John 11, verse 8, his disciples said, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone you, and you want to go there again? Let me translate what that means. That means if we say your name, we use the term Yeshu. Your name is not welcome. We can't go there, because if we mention your name, it's not welcome in our midst. So, like, what are you telling us to do? To go and his name is Yeshu? But Yeshua is saying, no, no, no. The focus is going to switch, and we are now in the days where the focus is switching. He spent 2,000 years with the nations, and what we're seeing in our world is Europe is going downhill, America is going downhill, and there's an awakening with Israel, with the land, with Judah. There's an awakening of a connection of a remnant in Christianity that are wheat, that wants to connect with Judah, wants to connect with the land, wants to work with Ariel and what he's doing. And so I'm going to end by saying this. Hopefully I've shared enough to give somebody think about it. I think it's overwhelming evidence that I presented. And Ariel said at the start of this, there's overwhelming evidence that Yeshua is Messiah ben Yosef, and he plays the role of going out to the northern kingdom and bringing them back in the covenant. And on that basis, that Yeshua is Messiah ben Yosef, there can be reconciliation that can be between Christianity and Judaism, between the house of Joseph and the house of Judah. So I'm going to end by a call for all the people who's taken the time and watched this video and listened to it, that the work that Ariel's doing is extremely important for the reconciliation, for the end of the exile, and his work needs to be supported. And there's two major elements of this. Is a two-phase process of what Ariel is tasked to do, and that is to redeem Yeshua back to the Jewish people, so that the Jewish people can see him as a fellow Jew. And so he has to be redeemed from the nations. That's why he wants to do this ceremony of a redemption of the firstborn. And then what also has to be done, and that is a retrial of Yeshua. That is also a part of bringing Yeshua back to the Jewish people. So I encourage everyone to share this teaching. And support Ariel and what he's doing, and tell your friends, because I believe now is the time for this work to be manifested, to be fruitful, and to bear fruit in the process of bringing the two sticks together and making them one, and ultimately bringing in the final redemption and the end of the exile. All right, so I'm ending there, Ariel. And I just, once again, as I started this, I want to say, you are my brother, because you're my brother, and I welcome the work that you're doing. And I want the Christian world to see that you are our brother as well, and to help you in this work, because it's so important to the days and times in which we're living in.
Thank you, Eddie. You know, Eddie, Jesus, if I say the name Yeshua, this refers to really to Mashiach ben David. In the moment you add the letter Ayin to his name, the letter Ayin refers to Esav. You know, when they give the name to Yaakov, it is written his hand holding the heel of Esav, Vaikra Shmo Yaakov. You have in Vaikra Shmo Yaakov, we call him Yaakov, you have the acronym of Yeshu, what refers to what Jesus realized of his name in the first coming, what equals the tree of Yosef, that equal Od Yosef Nechai, my son Yosef is still alive, like Yaakov said, equal Yeshu, Father 16. But it is written before Vaikra Shmo Yaakov, the word Esav that completes the name Yeshu to Yeshua in the right order from reverse. Right? It's in a reverse order. It means really the Ayin. Ayin is the letter of the tribe of Dan. Dan don't appear in the New Testament, the tribe of Dan. This is a snake. This is what Jesus cannot realize, cannot fix in the first coming. He didn't eat yet the tree of knowledge good and evil in the first coming. He didn't eat the fig tree, so he could not really do a rectification that had to do with this work, with Caesar, with Esav, etc. But when Jesus talk about his body, refer to the bread, really talk about Esav. Esav represents the body, the physical existence of Jesus, what he didn't realize really in the first coming. If you don't have a father always have to do with the body, and mother have to do with the soul. You know, we have in Pesach 3 matzot, 3 father, we have 4 glasses of wine, 4 mother. Right? The blood, it's like the soul. So this is Esav is firstborn to his father. Yosef is firstborn to his mother. So firstborn to the mother refer to the soul. Firstborn to the father refer to the body, to the physical existence. Now, when we talk about the coming back of Esav to Am Israel, we talk basically about the head of Esav, not the body. You have a good head. The head of Esav, like we know, is buried in Hebron in Me'arat HaMarpelah. Was cut by Hushim, son of Dan. Hushim is the letter of Mashiach. It means Mashiach, the concept of Mashiach that refer to the tribe of Dan. It means the concept of Mashiach that refer to the rectification of the snake. What is a priest? The priest is responsible to the rectification of the snake. He has the Choshen, what is the letter of Nachash. All the concept of hand that I'm dealing with it have to do with the snake. We have the letter Chen and Shin, like lie. Chen Sheker, Sheker Achen, in the word of Nachash. What have to do with my personal rectification. Cohen equal Laila, night. The Cohen is responsible on the dream, is responsible of what you call all the night, the moon, what usually it has to do with the evil force. But this evil force, this all concept of night, finally have to be marriage with the day, like in the creation of the first day. First of all, you make a separation between them, because before the separation is just a messed up of good and evil, it's tov vavohu. But then it was evening, it was morning, it's all one day. So finally have to be a waiting between the good and the evil. But when we talk here about the evil, we talk about the good sense of the evil. And this refers to what you call klipat noga in Kabbalah, the shell of noga. What is not good and is not evil, is everything that is mutar, that is the Torah permits you to do, have to do with klipat noga. Now, unfortunately, the Judaism destroyed klipat noga. It makes the life just life. I don't talk about Torah learning. I talk about life. Impossible for people that want to live, want to do music, want to dance, etc. So this not exist in Judaism of today. It's why this give force to the other, not only shell, because they run away from this possibility of living. Because really all the discussion, when we talk about the peace between Esav and Yaakov, about what the discussion, the discussion is not about what is not legal in the Torah. The discussion it's about what the Torah permit, and unfortunately today in Judaism is not permitted. As a costume is not permitted. Alright, so this cause the people leave the Torah. This cause the people run away to the completely impurity shell. It's why all noga equal chen. All my rectification have to do all the fight, all the rectification of anything, all the rapach nitzotzot in Kabbalah, all the holy spark have to do with klipat noga. And this refers to the head of Esav that really he have a good head. The head of Esav have to do with science, with music, with art. And this have to be part of life in redemption. So in redemption must to be a representation of Hevel, of Yaakov, and representation of Esav as well in the leadership. Must to be two personalities on top of the Sanhedrin. This is a secret of the name we say in Sukkot, Ani Vahu. There are 72 holy names, and the top of each one of the 35 is Ani Vahu. Ani is the beginning of the 37 holy names that refer to Hevel, 37 equal Hevel, to Yaakov. Vahu is the first holy name that refer to the 35 souls that refer to Cain, to Esav, the same thing. Okay, so must to be 77 Sanhedrin, and two on top of them that refer to Zerubbabel and Yehoshua ben Yotzadak, refer to the two olive, etc. That together really it's two eyes that contain 7 eyes, because one of the eyes split to 6. If you do Ein with a big nun equals 6 times Ein with regular nun. Alright, so really when we talk about the Chaya of Mashiach, of the soul of Mashiach, there are 7 heads, that really it's like 7 eyes, the same thing. 5 of them are not anymore with us, and the two left refer to Yehoshua and Zerubbabel. In the future, Zerubbabel is the secret of the priest, Yehoshua ben Yotzadak is the secret of the king, and this is a representation in Am Yisrael of Yaakov and Esav. I talk in the name of Esav. My rabbi talk in the name of Yaakov, but he don't realize that Yeshu, what he realized in his life, is referred to Yaakov. Vayikra Shmo Yaakov is the acronym of Yeshu. He didn't realize the snake. He didn't add the fig tree. He didn't add the tree of knowledge, good and evil, like it is written about Emmanuel. בטרם ידע הנער מעוז בחור ובחור בטוב. Before the kid, he will eat butter and honey. That for to reject the evil and choose the good. He will eat in the end, but in the beginning, before he will know the difference between good and evil, before he will eat the tree of knowledge, good and evil, he will be above the Torah in the first coming. So it's why we didn't receive him, because his kingdom is not here. So the Jews say, if as Mashiach you cannot, your kingdom is not here, you cannot solve the problem with Rome, the bad Esav. So who needs you? Right? So of course, Jesus talk as a prophet, and as a prophet, he say what have to do with the plan of God for the rectification of everything. So he was not understand as a prophet. A prophet can say even thing in the Torah sometimes. A prophet, it's not like Chachamim. It's something else completely. All the Jewish mentality was not anymore a time of prophecy. It was completely a fight between two different mentality of Chachamim, of wise people, that they think in a rational way, and a prophet. And a prophet say what he's supposed to say for the plan of God, for the rectification of everything, not just what you see now, your problem now. Okay, so it was ununderstood. So, and they performed the sin of selling of yourself. What it doesn't matter what you think about Jesus, you are not allowed to give him away. And this is a sin that caused 2,000 of exile. Okay, so really it is a part of Esav that refer to the body of Jesus, that must to come back to Am Israel, and this is what I represent. And the other part in the future should be represented by Yaakov, from the rabbi, what is not happened yet, right? When the book of Revelation talk about the 7 head of the beast, it says the 5 fell down, are not anymore with us. When you light the candle, you light first of all 5 candles. After you throw the blood on the altar, it's the secret of the Pidyon Haben with the blood, with the money. After you light the 7 candles that refer to the priesthood, and he say the one is with us. It means the 7 candles. The 8th one, I get to 8, is part of the 7. All right, this head is referred to a beast that was and not anymore with us, and he will come back to be with us. Okay, so this is the two eyes, representation of the 2 eyes that originally they can be 7, but 5 eyes are not anymore with us. The 6 eyes is referred to the good part, from 1 eye that split to 6. The eyes that refer to the physics don't split to 6, because the physics is more concentrated energy. And must to be peace between these two eyes that refer to the tree of knowledge, good and evil, and refer to the concept of Mashiach ben David. So when you say really Yeshua, you refer to the Chaya of Mashiach, to the beast, as part of the soul in holiness of Jesus himself. It means Jesus himself, he was Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. And when he was on the cross, the secret of the cross is to split the soul to two. Like we do this exercise, right? If Yitzchak one Mashiach have to add 150, so if you add 150, you have to do minus 150, you get to Chen. Chen plus Mashiach equal Yitzchak. So Yeshua become two Yeshua on the cross. It means one is Mashiach ben Yosef, the other one is Mashiach ben David. It's like the Nesirah between Adam and Eve. There was first in the beginning one as a man, and the woman was Eve was part of him, and then happened the separation, and the souls that refer to the other Yeshua are in Am Israel. And really, when happens this separation, it's a principle that always the male give a present to the female. When happens in Nesirah, it's a rule in Kabbalah. So Yeshua, Mashiach ben Yosef, gives the letter Ayin to Yeshua, Mashiach ben David. So now Yeshua with two Ayin equals a fig tree. Refer to the two eyes. And what stay in Christianity is Yeshu only. And the other Yeshua with the two Ayin, what is a fig tree, stay in Am Yisrael. And when the fig tree will be ready, it means when will be peace between the one eyes that refer to Esav, to the evil, and the six other eyes that represent by the one eyes of the rabbi. When will be peace between them, when the fig tree will be ready, this is a sign that the summer is closed. It means this is the time of redemption of the cats. Kites, it's like cats, the end of the day. Okay, so then will be the second coming. It means will be the concept of Yeshua, of Mashiach ben David, will not exist with not receiving the Yechidah, what is above the Chaya, above what in Hebrew it means a beast too, is Yechidah that refer only to the first coming. Yeshu in order number equal Yechidah, 37. And Yeshu in regular number equal Arum. Arum naked because he didn't eat the fig tree. He didn't eat, right? Like it is written in the story. He didn't eat the fig tree, so he's naked. And if you see a naked one, you have to cover him. It means you cannot talk about him if he's naked. What you are going to say about Jesus? It's like he's nothing not to say if he's not dressed. Okay, so you have to cover him, it means you have to dress him. And if you will dress him, אז יעלה כשחר אורך, then your light will shine like a morning, and etc. כבוד השם, equal חן, יאספך. All right, so this will be the redemption. All right, they are fantastic images in all this verse. Okay, so there are two concepts, is Yeshu and is Yeshua with the two Ayin, that split really to Ayin and the other Yeshu. Yeshu is like Yaakov, the Ayin is like Esav. Or you can say its two names is Yeshu and is Esav, the acronym of the Kolim Esav is Esav, ויקראו שמו Esav, the acronym is Esav. And it's like a Magen David, that you have the female, what refer to Mashiach ben David, a triangle of three letters, and you have the love, like the sword, that refer to the male, to Mashiach ben Yosef, with the letter of Yeshu. You have the letter of Esav, and then on the cross you have the letter of Yeshua. Really, when you take Esav and Yeshu, you have there only four different letters. What is the letter of Yeshua? And if you put on the Magen David the line in the middle, you receive the cross with the letter of Yeshua. Okay, so really, we need the two concepts. Jesus didn't realize in the first coming what you call the real Father, what have to do with the physical existence, the real Father. It's why he say, I will send you the advocate. He will tell you all the truth. You cannot understand all this. And he will tell you about the Father. The Father refer to Esau, refer to the real Father, refer to the physical body. It's a secret in Kabbalah that the Pnimiut Abba, the inner of the wisdom of the Father, refer to the physical existence. All right, so this was a little bit, a few words to understand this word. Is Yeshu, is Yeshua, is Yehoshua refer to the rabbi, is Yehoshua with two vav refer to the priest. There are always a development of this name. I give a lesson about this in the past. All the names are true, but we have to know each name to which level of the soul it refers. Each name of Jesus.
So, Ariel, what's your recommendation? How we end this meeting, this teaching? Ariel, what is your recommendation? How we end this meeting or teaching? Or do you want to keep going? I can't hear you.
My microphone is shut down.
Now I hear you.
Okay. Okay, so really we need the support. We really need more support if we want to make things move more strongly here in Eretz Israel. If we want to have more profile, nochechut, if you want to be more strong presence here in Am Yisrael, we need more support. It's important that my music spread all over the world, because if people will like my music and my music will become popular, then much more people in the world, in all the world, will want to listen what I have to say about all the Torah, what I teach. You know, when you want to put a seed in the ground, first of all you have to make the ground soft.
Yes.
All right, so this you do with the music. Music, it's like derech eretz kadma leTorah. Before the Torah, we just have to be ben adam, a person, right? That likes the people, that people like him. This can be for Torah, right? And this is my job, what I try to achieve right now with my music. So it's very important that to encourage all my disciples, all the people that like facing each other, that they go to this website and they listen to this music. This is one of the secrets, what you call the new song. It will be in the future. It is written in Chassidut and in the book of Revelation, a revelation of a new song. All my music, all the songs there are the same, reverse and forward. There's nobody in the world that writes music this way. All my music have chen. It's symmetrical. You can hear the same song from the end to the beginning. And of course, this must be a beautiful music. If not, it's not a recommendation to listen to it. It's not good, pleasant, and there are all styles of music. It's classical, it's jazz, it's rock, even heavy metal. is children's song, a lot of children's song, a lot of children music. Also, it's trance, electronics. Also, it's important to put effort uh, to this kind of language to speak with the people, because music is above the language, above speech. And so far, with my talking, I didn't conquer the world. I, I didn't get to enough people. But if
So
I
Ariel,
do,
you would like to hear my recommendation, and
yes,
we'll have to talk about this in more detail later. But I believe you'll get a positive response if you actually um, go to the churches and in the churches and share this message with them personally, where they see your face. And if you are open to that idea, part of what I've already started to do is reach out to my initial contacts that are working with the Jewish community, the Jewish people, as well as the churches, and have connections with the pastors, particularly and specifically for now here in Florida. Michael is in Florida; he's in Jacksonville, and I'm going to meet with somebody tomorrow, telling them about facing each other, and they've been working with pastors, um, in the last few years, got connections there, and so if I can begin to make the rounds of speaking with leaders, and who's got connections with churches and pastors, um, and uh, and we can share with them the vision, and they want to partner with the vision. Then we can start making arrangements so that we can actually have an itinerary of meetings with them. And something that I was thinking about is if we would, and I say we, I'm talking about me in particular, but other people as well. If we could start talking with people, leaders, pastors, share the vision, and they embrace the vision, want to be a partner with it, between now and basically toward the end of the year, and at the beginning of next year, say January, February, begin to arrange meetings where you could come to Florida in January and February, and go to the churches, speak with the people in person, and raise the money from speaking in the churches themselves. I think if you would be open to do that, that will be an effective way for people to link up and join. They're not so easily going to go to a YouTube channel and spend hours and hours on a YouTube channel and get connected that way. But business, ministry, you can get more done when it's personal. And so the more personal you make it, i.e., seeing them, the better results you're going to get. So that would be my recommendation. If you need time to think about it, well, we'll give you time to think about it in the next few weeks and the next few months or whatever. But that's what I would recommend going forward. In addition to doing things like getting this video out to people, and letting them know through this video, A, how they can donate, and B, how they can, as leaders, join the effort to get others involved.
I have nothing against to speak with people, to talk with people. Uh, it's a question about the church. I was in church in past. I don't know if you know, we are not so much always allowed to go inside church because it's a place of idolatry many times. And I don't see myself really lately go to church because we did this in the past, and I don't know. We have to work here in Israel with rabbi. Is the most important thing. I try to have appointment with some important rabbi to talk with them, to explain them really what have to be done, and this
Well,
really
maybe if it will be more challenging for you to go into churches, say in America, at least to start with, um, then maybe um, I or others should investigate going into churches and speaking on behalf of facing each other and encouraging them to support the effort from us going in with the purpose of sharing the message, telling them that we're here to raise support for facing each other. If it'd be more challenging for you to be a part of that, then maybe be best, like you're explaining, to focus on Israel and what you're doing in Israel and what you need to do in Israel, and maybe me and others should be the ones maybe going to the churches and encouraging them to support you. Okay, get the mic.
I am always happy to speak with anybody, any priest that want to speak with me. We can do meetings with priest in Zoom, like we did already
Yes.
many times. But I don't see myself so much right now run, you know, from church to church. I don't feel I have this energy right now to do this. But I don't say no. It's if will come a proposition, we will have to sit with it and to see if we can realize it or not. It will be a serious proposition. But right now, my main thing is really to work with my music, like I said, and try to meet some rabbis that for some reason I have difficulty to get appointment with them. But this is really what have to be done,
Okay.
and this will make the Pidyon Band, the ceremonies that we want to make. This will make it prosh, because this will happen. Rabbi Gilburg he is not against to do it. He said it lately. He said it in few time in public, that he's not against to do a redemption of the firstborn, like a ceremony of the firstborn. It's similar. It's not exactly the same thing. To bring back this soul back to Am Israel. We talk about Esav and Jesus, both concepts. When we talk about the head of Esav, we talk about really his angel that refers to the head of Esav. And this is a Jewish, is a Jewish, he born Jew, have a rectification as a Jew, and we must to have in Yemot HaMashiach the bad inclination in holiness. We need both inclination to have a healthy life in body and soul. We must to have Esav as part of Judaism. And if not, we are even not Israel really, because Israel it means Li Rosh, it's the letter of I got the head of Esav. So Yaakov is not firstborn. So if we don't have Esav as part of Israel, we are not really Israel. That Israel refers to my firstborn Israel. It's why Israel equal Yaakov plus Satan. Satan refers to Esav according to Kabbalah. Malach Satan, Malach angel Satan is the name of the two inclination, equal 10 times Adam. Adam have two inclinations that we call them Malach Satan. Satan refer basically to Esav, and Israel equal Yaakov plus Satan, and is a letter of I got the head. Right, so the head of Esav, if we have it, it means the head of Esav rules the world. Right, today it's the Uncle Sam, the Samech Mem, it's United States, or the Freemason or whatever, Illuminati, even Nimrod, that refer to the New World Order, his head was cut from Esav. Before Esav sold the birthright to Yaakov, you cannot really sell birthright, right? Must to be a condition for the selling of birthright. Esav must to be part of Am Israel. If not, Am Israel as a nation is not firstborn. Yaakov cannot become firstborn according to Torah. Like you cannot buy to be a priest by paying money. Okay, so before the head of Esav come back to Am Israel, the head of Nimrod, it means the good of Nimrod, become part of Esav. Alright, so when we bring back the head of Esav to Am Israel, we bring back to Am Israel too the leadership that want to do New World Order, that want rule all the world, that will be not anymore national nation. They want destroyed all the nation. Even United States, they want to destroy it. Okay, so this is very important, the concept of the head of Esav. And when we talk about the Yosef part of the nation, it means the good inclination in the nation. It refers to Yeshu, to Jesus, to the religion people that have to come back to Am Israel too. It means the absolute spirituality of Yaakov. This refers to Yeshu. Like I said, Yeshu refers to Yaakov. It is Yaakov below and it is Yaakov above. Like it is Yitzchak below and it is Yitzchak above. You know, there are three matzot. Refer to Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. But the Afikoman that refers to the sacrifice of Pesach is connected to the middle matzah that refers to Yitzchak. And Yaakov and Yitzchak is the same personality. Like Avraham and Esav is the other personality. There are two personalities in all the existence. Is Yaakov in the appearance of Yitzchak? It's like the good eyes, and it's Esav in the appearance of Avraham, in the other eyes. This refers to all the world. Okay, so Avraham is like Yosef, Yitzchak is like David. Okay, so these two concepts have to be here in Am Israel, and really this has to do with the leadership of all the world, of the spiritual world and of the Caesar world, both of them. Okay? Both of them are originally Jewish, and this is something we lost. Yaakov, because he lost Esav, he was punished with Shem, that Shechem ben Hamor equals 666, that rep Dinah, this was a punishment because he really he didn't let Dinah to be connected to Esav. This was supposed to become the 13th tribe. Instead of this, more later, this will become the tribe of Ephraim. That will become the connection to the nation, the 13th tribe. Right? Like we have a 13 months when we are connected to the moon, to connect to the sun. We need another month. It's like we need somebody else, and this always has to do with the daughter that will marry with somebody that refers to the sun, and then we have connection to all the nation as Am Israel. Okay, so we lost this connection that was supposed to be between Esav and Dinah, or one of the sons of Esav with Dinah. Right? Esav was already very old, relatively to Dinah. But Yaakov was punished for this. This our sage said. It means Yaakov didn't do anything to approach Esav. He cheated him. He stole him. He really didn't act nicely to his brother. Right? Your brother is tired. You want to eat something, and you do with him a business to buy something that really you cannot buy according to Torah. All right, so we have to understand really that there are two sides to the truth, to the word, and God, He rules all the world, and He wants peace between Cain and Hevel. The Torah starts very bad with Cain and Hevel, and all the Torah is that did Moshe, the end of the Torah, did Moshe to the eyes of Israel. It's when Cain and Hevel, Yaakov and Esau. These are the two eyes of Israel. All the Torah is to fix, to make peace between these two eyes. And if we don't make peace between these two eyes, the Mashiach is blind. Yitzchak is blind. Shimshon HaGibor, he has to do with the Mashiach too, is blind. He lost his eyes. Okay, so this is something very important, that all the Torah is to fix, to make peace between the two eyes. The two eyes is like two devils, one against the other. Satan equals the son of Rivka. All right, so there are two. Somebody that talk bad against his brother, it doesn't matter if it is Yaakov or it is Esau, is a Satan. It can be the good Satan, it can be the bad Satan, it doesn't matter. For this reason, Yitzchak is blind. Okay, because your eyes is like your spring. In the word, is the same word. Ayin is Ma'ayan, and your spring is like your sun, your spring. Okay, so must to be peace between the good element of life that refer to Esav, and the religion element of life that refer to Yaakov, have to be in harmony. You cannot go to extreme to any side, because if you go to extreme, you lost the other side. All right, so this is my basic philosophy about rectification of this world. We must to have the night and the day. In the beginning, we do separation, but really, finally, in the end, have to be a waiting between both of them, and then in this way, waiting, it will be the new song.
Sounds good. All right, so how do we end this, or have we ended it now?
I think it's a good ending. We get to the end of the Torah, and we said that this is the goal of all creation.
Okay, so
to fix the ice.
are you gonna tell people um, how they can donate to facing each other? They hear this, they are excited about it, they want to help. How do they help? Do they go to the website and see the information there, or how do they help? Okay, you got to put your mic on.
We have a website. If somebody want to give a big donation, it means $1,000 up. I think it's better to do it directly to the account because we lose 10% of all the money get through the website with all the
Yeah, that's
bank.
too much.
10% they
That's
stole
too
from
much.
us every month. Every month they steal from us 10% of this donation with all kind of amalot, all kind of. Also, it's better to send it directly to the account of the bank of facing each other. If we're talking about $1,000 up, it's better to do it, and we get it more quick. We wait two
And
months before the other money get.
if there's other leaders, other pastors see this and they want to help, they want to work with you, how do you recommend that they contact you and let you know that they're interested in what they might be able to do?
They can always contact me through Facebook. I have Facebook. They can, they can. I don't, through Facebook is very easy because every day I have few minutes in Facebook, and if somebody want to talk with me, he leave me a message, a telephone number or whatever, and it's a connection.
So Facebook is the best way.
Yeah, it's a easy way. It's an easy way to connect with anybody. You know.
Well, there you have it. Go to the website to make donation under 1,000, over 1,000. It would be better. The information is at the website where you can directly send money to the Facing Each Other bank account in Israel. If you're a leader, pastor, want to get connected, want to get involved, want to know how you can go forward from here, contact Ariel via Facebook. And that being the case, thank you for listening to this teaching, presentation, discussion. And may we live to see not only the reconciliation between Joseph and Judah, the fulfillment of Ezekiel 37, but may we also merit to see Mashiach in the end of the exile come speedily in our days. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom for everybody. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you.